It's really debilitating, and the fatigue, the pain and bloating, all of the symptoms of it really just control your life. So now I only have to go every 6 months for scans. So it's literally reversed that condition and changed my life.
After having now gone through RTT and knowing that it's applicable to anything and everything, I don't know if I'd ever go back to traditional talk therapy.
If you don't process the emotions, feel the feelings, and you suppress, it's going to come out somewhere in your body. I actually healed my own medical condition with RTT. So that's when I really kind of had that flip of, wow, I need to share this with so many people and do it myself.
Kathryn, welcome to the One in a Million podcast. I'm so excited to have you here after the random way that we met earlier this year. I really do have a feeling that the universe brings people together in the most magnificent ways. And I'm so glad that the universe brought us together, because you have transformed my life. And it's been really, really poignant the way that you transformed it very, very quickly, which makes sense what we're going to speak about today, which is RTT, rapid transformation therapy. You've also transformed your own life and many, many lives of others from some of the deepest, darkest, most mental struggles, physical struggles. So to anyone who is listening and they might not have heard of RTT before, how would you describe it to them?
Okay, so thank you, first of all, for that lovely introduction. It made me, I well up a lot when people say nice things like that, because the fact that I'm having that impact on people's lives is just phenomenal to me, and is why I get up in the mornings and do this. So think of it like therapy, but quickly. So the idea of RTT is almost like you're going to A&E with pain, and you want them to get to the root cause of your pain, and then you want to leave and move on with your life. And that's what it's about. It's not about going back week on week or month on month and talking about the trauma or the event or the feeling. So how it does this is tools that are already out there. So it's neurolinguistic programming, cognitive behavioral therapy combined with psychotherapy and hypnotherapy. So you're working with a subconscious mind to get quicker results than you would if you're working with your conscious mind. Hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely. It's a very, very big blend of different types of therapy. Now, I think most people will be familiar with cognitive behavioral therapy, or they might have heard of, hypnotherapy, being hypnotized. It's something, though, that when you blend it together is pretty unique.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about where RTT was derived from, and also how you found out about it?
Yeah, sure. So it was created by one of the leading therapists in Britain called Marisa. She's been a therapist for over 30 years, and she was a talk therapist, and she would see people coming back to her week on week, month on month. And again, that's the analogy she gives, that it should be like you're going to the dentist with pain, or you're going to A&E and you get to the root cause and you move on. She wanted to see the change in people, not just keep talking about the past. So she combined these three tools together to create rapid transformation therapy. I originally, like you say, passed across for a reason, and serendipity moments happen. I met her at a wellness festival in 2020, and I didn't realize she was the speaker. And I sat in the audience and was chatting to her and I was talking about Dr. Joe Dispenza, whose work I followed a lot, and she aligns with that. Then we were talking about the power of the mind, the power of manifestation, etc. And then suddenly she was like, oh, I've got to go. And she's on stage. She's the speaker. So she came off stage and asked me what I thought. Obviously, I didn't know I was speaking to her. And then she offered me 2 tickets the next day to her I Am Enough course that she was doing in London, because it was the start of the pandemic and lots of people had dropped out. And she was like, just come along. And so the fact that she took that time to speak to me, and it resonated so much with me, the power of actually we have power to change our mind, change our perception of reality. And no matter what's happening to us, we can change how we react, not others or the things that are going on. So that got me originally interested. And then I actually healed my own medical condition with RTT. So that's when I really kind of had that flip of, wow, I need to share this with so many people and do it myself.
It's such a crazy story, and that is what I would term as the universe is universing. Because how crazy that you were sat next to her, and before you knew it, she was on stage, and then you're learning from her, and she is incredibly admirable. I love her work. So if anyone hasn't heard of Marisa Peer, definitely go and, you know, look her up. She has millions and millions of followers across all platforms. So you said that you cured your own medical condition through RTT.
Yeah.
Describe how you can cure a physical condition through rapid transformation therapy.
Okay, it still blows my mind now. However, I had endometriosis. So that's quite a common female condition where parts of your uterus grow on other, or parts of your womb grow on other parts of your body, so organs and things like that. It takes a while to get diagnosed generally. It took me 8 years. So I was suffering a lot of debilitating pain. I was hospitalized twice in an ambulance, collapsing at work and being sent home. I had to go to hospital on the way to a trip away one weekend, and I stopped to kind of see if I could get some painkillers and ended up having to cancel. I literally didn't board my flight. So it's really debilitating, and the fatigue, the pain and bloating, all of the symptoms of it really just control your life. So after I was diagnosed, I was in quite a desperate situation, and I would normally like to try things like nutrition and diet and things like that to heal kind of root cause of things. But I was at a point where I was so low and so desperate, I needed a quick fix. So I went with the gynecologist's recommendation to have hormone therapy, which is in the form of the Mirena coil. Had that after 6 months. I mean, the symptoms, there was vomiting for days, a month and things like that before the coil, all of the pain, etc. It went. So absolutely did its work. It controlled my symptoms. And after about 6 months, I just felt like someone had a little lid on my head. Like I couldn't get excited about stuff. And I'm normally a really like positive, happy person. So I couldn't explain it, but I didn't feel myself. And I contacted my gynecologist to have my check-in, and I said, this is how I'm feeling. And she said, oh, that can be a side effect of the progesterone, the hormone. So we can prescribe you antidepressants or anxiety medication to counteract that. But for me, to go on other medications to treat the side effects of medication I was on, for something I never experienced before, just it didn't add up, because it wasn't for a sake of 6 months, 12 months. This would be lifelong medication. So, and she literally said, you're going against my recommendations and my advice. I had the coil removed, because for me, it just wasn't an option to do that. And I felt fine mentally before that treatment. So I went down a road of diet, kind of nutrition and exercise, because there's a lot that you can do. And I worked with PT, a couple of different PTs and nutritionists to manage my symptoms. And that was a game changer for me. It definitely managed them to a point that I could live like normally. I would change my exercise routine and my nutrition to follow my cycle. And I think that's what a lot of people aren't taught. But after 5 years, I was having scans every 3 months. That was the condition and agreement with my consultant. They did tell me there was new growth, because the main growth is on my bowel. That could potentially mean removing part of my bowel, quite major surgery. So they said it would either surgery or going back on hormones. And again, I just didn't want to do either of those. So I was already studying RTT, and I thought to begin with, it was just for depression, anxiety, kind of mental health issues. But through those studies and seeing the case studies and things like that, I saw it can be used for physical conditions, which blew my mind. So I had one RTT session and from that, I've come off prescription painkillers. I literally don't have any pain like through my cycle, which still blows my mind and the mind of anyone that's known me for many years to know that I would be in bed, unable to move. And the bloating has gone, the fatigue has gone, my energy levels have changed. And even on the scans that I have with my consultant, the growths have reduced. The new growth has reduced. The main growth has reduced. The inflammation has reduced. So even he is saying to me, I don't know what you've done, but keep doing it. And I'm in Spain. He's Spanish, and there was a little bit of a language barrier. And I was trying to explain to him about RTT. And he just went, just keep up with the mindfulness. It's kind of doing more than I could do with the medication. So now I only have to go every 6 months for scans. So it's literally reversed that condition and changed my life.
It's mind-blowing. It really, really is. This is something that I've also heard Dr. Joe Dispenza talk about when it comes to reprogramming that subconscious mind. He's seen people come back from conditions that are terminal, chronic. And honestly, I wish that I knew about RTT when I got diagnosed with my autoimmune condition, inflammatory bowel disease, when I was 19, because I went through all the talk therapy, which naturally helped. But the magic, because it truly is magical, the magic within RTT is the fact that it does have such a fast onset in terms of the improvements that you will see. If you are a busy, career-driven woman and you know that your inability to lose the body fat that you want to lose is stopping you from living a confident, successful life, then hear me out. We have just launched our Fat Loss Accelerator program, which is made specifically for women who are constrained for time, yet they want to lose anywhere between 10 to 25 pounds of body weight within 90 days. Throughout this process, we're also going to teach you exactly what you need to know so that you can maintain this result forever. That it's the lifestyle changes and the habits that you need to implement for the rest of your life to finally become that confident and successful woman who excels in all areas of her life. So if you're interested in finding out more about our Fat Loss Accelerator program, then send me a message on Instagram. Send me the words Fat Loss Accelerator. My Instagram is Millie at Team CBM. The link is in the description below, and I will get back to you with all the information that you need to know. Back to the episode. I'm curious to know, when it comes to you going through your RTT process, did you genuinely believe that it was going to reverse a physical condition? Because I think what we're talking about right now, some people might think, okay, this sounds like woo-woo. Like this just sounds ridiculous. Like I'm dealing with physical pain with a physical condition that is so intense. How is some kind of hypnotherapy gonna change my life and take me out of pain?
So Marisa Peer says, whatever you don't weep from your eyes will weep from other organs. And it's just an analogy, a powerful analogy to say, if you don't process the emotions, feel the feelings, and you suppress, it's going to come out somewhere in your body. And we know this. We know that people can have trauma or grief or stress, and they will get rashes, they'll get headaches, they'll get physical symptoms. So we know scientifically that already happens. I was apprehensive. I wouldn't say skeptical, because I'm very open. I've done multiple of Dr. Joe Dispenza's in-person workshops years ago. I follow his work, and I'm a true believer in kind of the power of our own minds. But I had an incredible childhood from a perspective of love, nurturing, connection, all of the things that children want is absolutely what I had. I had a very loving family. So for me to think something traumatic in my past had caused me endometriosis didn't make sense to me. However, and I'm okay to share this, the scene that came up for me was a scene that I don't remember. And it was something when I was 2 years old. And my mum, we were so close. We were like best friends before she passed away. And I loved her dearly. And likewise, she was so empathetic, so selfless and loving. All she did is, the scene that came up, she's cooking. I'm standing in the kitchen at 2 years old, and I want to cry because I'm upset. And I still remember this now as an adult. She used to hug me and say, "Don't cry, Kathryn," from a place of love, because it upset her to see me sad, nothing else. And from that, in that scene, I formed a belief that I needed to be this bright, shining light for my mum. That was it. And I'd always been really positive, and I just thought it was me. And this is the thing, we just think these things are part of our personality, whether it's a positive or a negative thing, but it's something that's happened to us that shaped that. And I had traumatic things happened to me, including my mum being sick, and people were like, you're handling it really well. You're kind of being strong, you're taking action. I'm just dealing with the situation and focusing on the positive of things I can do. But subconsciously, I was just suppressing anything negative. And I've even spoken to friends now that have been friends with me since high school, and I said to them about this, and they were like, oh yeah, we knew that about you, that you're the kind of this traumatic things happening. And you're like, well, we can do this though. And I've got these rosy color specs on, which it's good to not let negativity consume you, but you need to process it and acknowledge it. And literally that was what came up. And I've never felt, it was like someone turned a tap on in my eyes and my chest felt so tight. It was this big release just happening throughout the session. And I remember the whole session. I remember everything that was said and that I said. But my aura, I've got an aura ring that kind of monitors your sleep and your heart rate and things. And it said I was having it calls it a nap if you sleep in the day. And it was like, it logged a nap for that time, an hour and a half in that therapy session. So that just meant I was in that perfect hypnotic, relaxed state to the point that my ring thought I was sleeping, but I was speaking with my subconscious mind and releasing a lot of years of emotion. But like I said, I didn't even know it was there. It was beneath the surface.
A lot of Gabor Mate's work talks about how these chronic health conditions are as a result of suppressed trauma.
Yeah.
Scary that both of us have been through such a similar childhood, I suppose, having a sick mother, losing the mother. And there is a lot that goes on when it comes to that being something where you have to grow up very fast.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a result of having to grow up very fast, if you haven't had the resources and the people that you need to be able to process everything, that is internalized. And before you know it, it does manifest into a physical condition. And this is something where I find it fascinating, because that's why I said, I wish I would have known about RTT perhaps a little bit earlier on in my years, because it would have helped from a perspective of helping me with my chronic inflammatory condition. But fortunately, I had the pleasure of working with you in a very different way. And I'm also happy to share my journey, because I think what we're talking about here, even though it's just illness, it's not something where it's only illness that will obviously be something that can be treated through RTT. We're talking about addictions, smoking, alcohol. We're talking about mental health, depression, anxiety, stress, phobias, self-worth, behavioral conditions. Could you reel off some examples of maybe some of the types of individuals that you've worked with and what they've been struggling with?
Yeah, I mean, I can share the ones obviously that have done testimonials. So just to caveat it with that these are all people that have shared their testimonials already. I recently had one. It was a cancer patient with prostate cancer. And I did a session with him and we worked on identifying kind of where the cancer was in his body, and him visualizing, first of all, going through the surgery successfully and then going through the radiotherapy. So he still went down the Western medicine route. However, we had the therapy session, then he had 2 different hypnosis recordings, and he visualized the medicine doing its work, but leaving his body healthy, without toxins, without cancer, etc. And he did a reel on Instagram this week that he rang the bell that he's cancer free. He's 72.
That is incredible.
Yeah. And on the same night, so I went to bed very happy and very kind of emotional this night. I also I've got a friend who's in her late 20s, and she was diagnosed with a malformation in her brain that she'd been born with, but she didn't know. She started to experience symptoms in her late 20s, and then she was diagnosed. And she had to undergo brain surgery 5 weeks ago. And she's somebody that really kind of has a little bit of health, like anxiety around health or anything like that. So started working with her in April. And we did a couple of different hypnosis recordings to kind of visualize her being in a calm place as she went down to surgery, and then visualize her coming around and being kind of the best case scenario with regards to healing, etc. And she said even the doctors couldn't believe and her family, how calm she was in the lead up to it. I visited her before she flew back to have the surgery, and I was surprised. And then from that, her recovery has gone so much better. Like, they thought she wouldn't really come around the same day. She would be vomiting, etc. She was awake, she was eating, she was talking like hours after the surgery. And she's got a scan in a few weeks, and she's just excited now to see those results. But she said it's completely changed her experience and of that really quite traumatic thing that she had to go through, and also her confidence that her body could go through that and can heal it. Because obviously before major surgery like that, they talked about all of the worst case scenarios, and that can consume you. You then go to the negative, whereas her mind was subconsciously, with the hypnosis recording, being filled with all of these positive things and visualizations of her being back to life, being back working, etc. She's got to have 3 months off work to recover. That's how big the surgery is. But I've seen her a couple of weeks ago, and I was astounded. She's flown back from Ireland to Spain after 2 weeks of surgery.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Literally life-changing stuff. And these are all examples of very much so healing the body, healing our physical. Just as important when it comes to, I suppose, certain behavioral patterns or thinking patterns that don't serve us. That's something that you and I worked on together. I've got a few examples here that I can just rattle off. So we've got things like fear of heights, social anxiety, fear of failure, emotional eating, insomnia, procrastination, chronic pain, imposter syndrome, low self-esteem, gambling, all different types of addictions. And I'm sure that there is plenty more. And in fact, the one thing that you and I worked on together is not actually here, which I'm very, very happy to share. And it is quite vulnerable for me to share, but I think it will help a lot of people, and it might be something that they wouldn't expect. So I grew up in an environment where we didn't necessarily have much, because my parents moved over from Eastern Europe to the UK, and they were trying to make it for a better life. But there was a certain narrative that was perpetuated throughout my childhood, which was that, we never had enough money. Money was scarce. And also there was quite erratic spending with money, fear of bills, and arguments around money, which I saw my parents consistently, at each other's throats when I was younger, which meant that throughout my adult years, I've always had this negative connotation with money, whether it could be considered as a good situation or a bad situation. And so you and I worked together to take me back to those moments when I was younger, and to understand what the root cause of my scarcity mindset around money is, thinking that there'll never be enough, that I'll never be safe, I'll never have the resources, no matter how much I have. What I think could be useful is to describe, what does the RTT process look like? So that way, when maybe we discuss our journeys, the listeners can follow along and understand, okay, what we did at what part and why that was important for us to get to the position where we are now, which is healed from my previous belief that didn't serve me, and yourself being physically healed from a condition that was diagnosed as chronic.
Yeah, good point. So the journey, first of all, starts with a call where we go through a little bit about childhood. Really any significant events. Your subconscious mind, which I'll come on to in the session, will come up with the right thing. So it doesn't matter if you miss something. It's not as in-depth as you would maybe go into in talk therapy, but any really significant events, like if you lost somebody, bullying at school, bad relationships within the family, abuse, anything like that. We decide and agree on what we would call the presenting issue is. So what's the main focus? Because sometimes people have multiple things that they want to focus on, but you can only focus on one for the RTT session, because we need your mind to go back to the root cause of that. Now, sometimes you go back to dealing with anxiety, for example, and there may be multiple other things that's impacting. So you do resolve multiple issues through one session, but it's one thing we focus on. And then the main part of that, what we call the intake call, is, okay, forget, you haven't got the issue anymore. What's life like? Like, give me a vision board of what you're waking up feeling like. What are the things you're doing now? How are you acting? What are people saying to you? What are the experiences you're having? Because you will need to excite your mind to change. And your mind has kept going back to this familiar thing, this familiar belief, and it just keeps repeating that. And that's how our brains work. So you need to now make the unfamiliar, the vision board life, familiar to you. So that part of the call that we have, that's what is the foundation of your hypnosis recording that I write. So the reason I take your words and I mix it in with lots of words, kind of NLP language and things like that, and positive, powerful words, is because your day, if we both had anxiety, your day living without anxiety would look different to mine. So to excite your mind to change, it needs to be words that are meaningful and visualizations that are meaningful to you. So after that call, I craft a hypnosis recording, so a script that I'm going to use. Like I said, combining your visualizations, your words with lots of powerful NLP language. Then we have the 2-hour, the main RTT session. So in that session, I talk you down into hypnosis. And then we get your subconscious mind to go back to 3 scenes. So if you think about your subconscious mind like a security camera, it's filming and recording from the moment that you developed hearing in the womb, which is hard for people to understand. But I have had multiple clients go back to scenes when they were a newborn baby that formed the belief and the issue that they're now dealing with, but obviously they never remembered. And they've checked those scenes with parents, and the scenes actually did happen. And the things that were said that caused the issue were said. So that's the security camera. It's recording, but we just don't access it. We don't need it. It's just there. So by going into hypnosis, you're closing down your conscious mind, which is only 5% of you, to allow you, this is the easiest way to put it, to access your archives. So I count you back to get your subconscious mind to come up with the reason for the anxiety, for the scarcity mindset, whatever the issue is. And then you say whatever comes into your mind. So your role within this is to relax and just say what comes into your mind. That's it. It's not like being on stage hypnosis that's for entertainment where you don't know what's going on. It's a 2-way conversation between us. And then you say what comes into your mind. I ask you questions and help guide you to understand that. And that's what you were saying is the key of and helps you understand why you feel like you do now because of things that happened in the past. So there's 3 scenes, and depending on what comes up in those scenes, there's different tools that we use in RTT. What the aim of using those tools is to, if you think about it, like say you were bullied at school at 6 years old and you never defended yourself, and now you're an adult, you can't speak up for yourself, you don't understand, you're very timid, you've got all of these so-called personality traits, but actually it's because you were bullied at school. Now, if someone tried to bully you, you're an adult, you know differently, you think differently, you would stand up for yourself, but you're still, your subconscious mind and the blueprint is still that 6-year-old child. So it's about, first of all, saying, that's not me anymore because I'm not that child. I'm this adult now. I would act, think, and feel differently about the situation. If it's that maybe you had abuse from parents, you don't live with your parents anymore, you can choose as an adult, if you're interacting with them, you can choose to defend yourself. So it's about telling the subconscious mind, that's not me now, I'm this person. Reframing and letting go of those emotions related to those scenes. And then at the end of the session, which is the big powerful thing for changing, is the hypnosis recording. So then I record that hypnosis recording in the session, and then the client listens to that for 21 days because, like I said before, the mind learns from the repetition of what's familiar. So you listen to it. The best time is before you go to sleep, because then your mind's got the whole night of hopefully 7 to 8 hours to sleep if you're getting it, to process that information and kind of reprogram your mind to that new way of being, get rid of old beliefs. So 60% of the therapy happens within that RTT session. 40% of it is that afterwards, listening repeatedly to the hypnosis recording. Now, you can experience, a lot of people experience a feeling of being lighter or kind of having processed emotions within the session but it's really the 21 days to kind of feel the full benefits. Just on that, for an example, I had a client who came to me for stress, and she's in her 30s. She wasn't sleeping more than 4 or 5 hours a night. She went back to a scene when she was a teenager that was traumatic. However, in her conscious mind, she dealt with it and she'd moved on from it, hadn't thought about it. She was surprised, even though it was traumatic, she was surprised it came up. We worked through that in the session. From that day, she has slept 7 to 8 hours a night. So just from dealing with that in her subconscious mind. And I've had clients even come up with a scene that was a happy scene, but it formed a different belief in their mind, or something that they knew of that wasn't even a thing. To them, not a traumatic event, but the belief it formed in their subconscious mind at that age is what was affecting them. And there can even be things, it doesn't have, it's mainly childhood, but it can be stuff in adulthood as well. But it's just about dealing with that in your subconscious mind.
It's so comprehensive and so thorough, yet it is so fast. Like, it is literally, okay, intake call, then the RTT session, 2 hours, listen to the recording for at least 21 days, and then a call just to follow up to talk about how things have gone. And I can say, hand on heart, from my experience, I do agree with what you've said there after the first, after the 2 hour session with the hypnosis, that I came away feeling amazing, lighter, excited, kind of like the problem had already been solved. And I believe that the reason for that is because it gives clarity in terms of why maybe you've had a belief for so long. And that was something that was pretty evident to me, which was, okay, I had this belief that there's never going to be enough money and that we need to be very, very careful and intentional with how we spend it. Or it was the opposite, which was spending money erratically in the hope that it could produce a better life. Don't want to tell you how many lottery tickets I saw my dad buy as a child. But this is something where I understood it afterwards and thought, oh, okay, well, I was just trying to protect myself. But actually, these behaviors don't apply to my life right now because, you know, there's more than enough resources that I've got. There's more than enough abundance. And after that, listening to that recording for that 21 days just reinforced the message. And I could never go back to thinking that way because ultimately it was sabotaging, doesn't serve me. And I think that's what everyone must feel afterwards. And I think also that will come down to a lot of the support from NLP. Now, to someone who doesn't know what NLP is and how it's used within the process, could you describe that to us?
Sure. So neurolinguistic programming, it's intended to help clients understand their own minds and how you think and behave, and then the impact on your subconscious of that, on your moods and emotions. So the easiest way I have heard it described is specifically in the UK, if someone asks you how you are, you say, I'm not too bad. That's a good response and positive response in the UK. However, saying the word I'm not too bad to your subconscious mind and to them, they experience subconsciously a negative emotion because it's bad. That's the word it picks up on. Imagine the feeling that you get if you say, I'm fantastic, thank you, how are you? Or I'm great, thank you, how are you? Is just subconsciously you pick up on a different energy. So it's about those words that you're using within your mind to program your mind basically for how you think and feel on a daily basis. But we're using it when you're in hypnosis with your subconscious mind. What I would say, just to pick up on what you said about how you felt after one session, and how that process works for that one kind of 4-week program that includes the one RTT session, the 80% of clients, not just for me, but across the board with RTT, experience results from one session. So it is really powerful. The maximum anyone should ever need is 3. And that would normally be for sometimes autoimmune diseases, sometimes complex PTSD, because there's multiple layers of things. But the idea is that it's one session, then listening to the recording, and you've got to the root cause, it's resolved, and you don't go back to that.
With regard to your personal journey, Kathryn, when it comes to getting to the point where you decided you were going to train in RTT, what were you doing beforehand and why did you feel drawn to that?
So I was in something very different. I was in managing consulting in tech, most recently kind of working in the e-commerce world in luxury fashion. So very externally making people happy, but not necessarily internally. But in that career, the thing that always drove me, it wasn't tech, it wasn't building websites or anything like that. It was the teams and the people and how they experience change, for example. So I was working within program and project management in that field, and it was all about order and structure and kind of introducing those processes. But for me, none of that exists without the people and the people taking it on board and kind of working in that certain way. And in order for your company to be successful, you need teams to feel happy, to feel like they're contributing, all of those things. So it was always the people side that I really focused on. I even had team members who absolutely did not believe in meditation, for example, and had a one-to-one with them, and they were very stressed. They were coming into work early because of that made their commute easier, sitting down at a desk at 7 a.m. And I said, just go meditate for half an hour. We had a quiet room at work, go meditate. And this is a guy like in his 50s. He's never tried meditation before, working in a very male-dominated environment. And I told him just to trust me. And as a boss, he did. I just said, just try it for a few weeks. And he literally, it changed his life, just taking that half an hour to settle his mind in the morning. So it was through all things like that. And I mean, sometimes I've had bosses like Kathryn does the fluffy stuff, because I was always, as part of my leadership role, I saw nurturing the team and making sure they were okay emotionally meant we performed better. So I was always there, like if they were going through difficulty, I was always there, encouraging them to do better, to believe in themselves, to aim higher. Even when I left one company, I convinced one of my team just to step into my role while they recruited, and she ended up taking that leadership role. She didn't believe in herself to do it, but I was like, just try it while they recruit, because I knew she would be good in it. And then whilst I was doing that consulting and working in tech, I discovered Dr. Joe Dispenza, and that changed my life back in 2017. And going to his workshops was another level of experience for sure. For, like you say, like seeing people physically and mentally and emotionally transforming in a matter of days when they're doing his work. And there's another person that really inspired me called Hal Elrod. He wrote the Miracle Morning, and he's used his mindset to come through major things like being told he will never walk again. And also he had, I think it was a rare type of leukemia, and I think it was 5% chance of surviving. So he's used it for major things. And those kinds of stories are what really inspired me. And then obviously meeting Marisa Peer, and she's just incredible to meet in person. And I trained in person with her when I did my training, and just seeing her work and the care that she has for people, it lights her up still now. And for me, that's what I wasn't getting from my career. Although I helped people within my team, the day-to-day stuff of the meetings, projects going a bit wrong, a bit of money being lost on projects, things like budgets, it didn't excite me. I enjoyed it, but it didn't excite me. It didn't fill up my soul and my heart. So that's when because of my own journey and seeing how it helped me, I was like, I've got to. There's signs from the universe. I've got to do it.
Isn't it amazing how there seems to just be this invisible thread that is pulling us to where we need to go? Because that's always been your nature, that's always been your life purpose, your mission. And naturally it pulled you towards doing what you do today. And how hilarious that I was thinking all the way back in June, there's this business mastermind in Marbella. I should probably go to it, but it's on the other side of the world. I'll have to travel. It's going to be expensive. I was like, you know what, Millie, you always get something out of going to one of these events. No matter how small it is, you'll come away with something. So I booked the flight, went to Marbella, went to the business mastermind or the workshop, which was only half a day. And that's where we met. And then you reached out to me afterwards. And from you reaching out, being as kind as you are, you've literally transformed my life. To get rid of a thinking pattern which I genuinely believed was well, it was just part of me. It wasn't something that I thought I could change. And the magical thing is that through doing a lot more research and understanding into Joe Dispenza's work, and obviously learning about Marisa Peer's work through RTT and meeting you, I know that we can pretty much change anything with the beauty of neuroplasticity. Now, I think if we were to keep it really simple for the listeners to understand why thoughts become things, how would you explain that to them in the way that is backed by science as to how your thought can truly become something?
So probably the easiest way to look at it is around self-esteem, as an example, to simplify it. If you think if someone was mean to you or nasty to you, you can kind of brush it off and go, well, it's a bad day. They're having a bad day. There's something wrong with them. They're upset. They're not being very nice to me. However, what you repeat in your mind, your mind absorbs it as reality. So if you keep saying, I'm stupid, I always do this, I get this wrong, I can't believe it, I'm an idiot, I can never make anything work. It's like butter on hot toast. Your mind can't reject it and go, it's bad. It just absorbs it. So it just goes, okay, well, this is us. This is how we're going to act. This is our reality. Whereas if you wake up in the morning, and everybody who tries this, of just starting to think the day positive, whereas if you wake up and you start to, something goes wrong and you're like, oh, it's one of those days, everything's going to go wrong now. And that's just then what is happening. It's going to happen because you're as well going to focus on that coming through. I don't know if this is making sense, but yourself, with the self-esteem analogy, it's called self-esteem because only you can build it. So only you can shape your thoughts. No one else can. You can read something, you can read a book that helps you, you can follow Dr. Joe's work, and you can be inspired by it. But unless you implement those things and change your thoughts and your thought patterns, your experience of the world around you is not going to change. You're not going to feel any differently. You're still going to feel like you have low self-esteem. You're still going to feel like anxious and catastrophizing about things that could go wrong, because you need to change those thoughts within you. And it's the things that you repeat to yourself. So your mind will naturally go towards those things that are familiar. And the other thing that will automatically do is move you away from pain towards pleasure. So if you're linking drinking too much alcohol to pleasure, your mind is going to direct you towards that when you need it. If you're linking going to the gym as pain, oh, I have to put it in my day, I've got to do it, as opposed to, I'm going to make my body stronger, I want to do this, your mind is automatically going to move you towards doing it. It's why we procrastinate over things like study. I've definitely done that, and things like that, because your mind wants to move you away from it, because you're telling your mind you don't like it. And one thing I definitely learned kind of within my study was, at school I was quite a naughty child, I would say. I didn't study. I did well. I'm very grateful for that, but I didn't put in the work to do well. So I could have definitely done better. And so then, because I just saw study as boring. But now I'm studying to be an RTT therapist, and I was like, I want to learn this and I want to have the result. But in my subconscious, I was still like, oh, it's boring reading all the book, reading all the information and watching the lectures and things. So I procrastinate and do anything, clean out the drawers, washing, anything to stop doing it, because I was still linking that same pain to it. But I just started to tell myself, you want to be an RTT therapist. You want this. You're going to enjoy it. It's going to change your life. And then I got the motivation to do those things. And like I said, it's the same that you would experience with clients around going to the gym and things like that. If your mind likes choice. So if you're choosing to do it, it's going to want to do it. And you're saying you want to do it. If you're not, then it's going to move you away from it and make you procrastinate. And you'll still be in your gym gear at 5 p.m. when you're meant to have done your workout at 9.
That's perfectly put. It's aligning your actions with the person that you want to be.
Yeah.
So acting as if you already are them.
Yeah.
This is something which I experienced honestly this year. And if I hadn't changed my belief process, then I wouldn't have even been on the business mastermind that was in Marbella that connected me to you. It's quite an interesting story for me to tell because it was only 6 months ago, but it genuinely feels like it was a lifetime away from where I am now, which is I was struggling with personal career progression. And I remember saying to one of my friends, I'm just really struggling to believe in myself. Like, I just don't believe that I can achieve X, Y, Z in my personal goals in business. And she looked at me and she just said, you need to manifest. And I thought, isn't that woo-woo stuff that people talk about on TikTok? And then before I knew it, I'm there listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza, understanding how we can pay attention to certain thoughts. Or I like the way that you've told this before, which is tell yourself a better lie, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's what Marisa Peer, she's written a book called Tell Yourself a Better Lie. Because we lie to ourselves all the time. Negatively.
Yeah. So by telling myself the lie of I am capable of achieving it and consistently saying that, making the vision board, before you know it, you're just taking these leaps in line with the person that you want to be. And therefore, those thoughts, or maybe telling yourself a better lie, which is a thought, then becomes an actual thing. It's something that can only really have an effect, however, on people that have the knowledge and the desire to change. Have you ever encountered anyone who's seen success with this process if they've not been ready to lean into getting the result?
I've had clients that are skeptical, but they're in a desperate situation, so they're willing to give anything a go. I wouldn't say that they're not ready to lean in because they're paying to have the therapy, and I explained to them that it's not me giving them a magic wand or a magic pill or something. I'm just facilitating them working with their own minds and helping them use their mind to their benefit and understand why they are a certain way. So a lot of it is on the client and their commitment. And I'm always quite thorough with that in the intake call, because especially 40% of it is outside of my control of them listening to the hypnosis recording every day. So I've had even a client who put in their testimonial, she was a girl in her early 20s and she was skeptical. Her mum had put her forward for the therapy, and she was just desperate though. So she tried it, and she, I would say, wasn't consistent to begin with in listening to the recording, but then through encouragement of that. So sometimes there's people I need to encourage more to kind of, they start to say, I can't fit it into my day, etc. But you literally just press play and go to sleep. That's all you have to do. It doesn't matter if you fall asleep to it. Most people do. And then she did a testimony to say it's literally completely transformed her life from a person who was kind of suffering depression and anxiety. So I've had people that are maybe skeptical. If someone was resistant to it or didn't really want the change, then it would be difficult to work with them, because in that intake call, I have to get from them, what's your life like now without it? So they have to be able to vision that in their words. The only example I've got, but it's not in relation to RTT, just pure hypnotherapy. I'll show my age now, about 25 years ago, I had a friend who trained to be a hypnotherapist. I've actually done RTT on her now as well. So I've kind of just come back full circle. And she was training and I booked my dad an appointment to stop smoking. My mum hated smoking and he didn't want to stop. But I told him if he didn't go along, because he was going to cancel it, I'd lose my £50. And so he didn't want me to lose my £50. Obviously, that wasn't the truth. Sorry, Dad. But sometimes I'm normally really truthful, but this is one occasion. And he went along, and he will maintain today he was never hypnotized, because it's not. He had an awareness still. For him, it would be like stage hypnosis. He didn't know what was going on, but he's never smoked in 25 years. And he was like a 40 a day person. So definitely it can have impact from a hypnotherapy perspective, but really for the RTT part, and that's the the imagining your life without it, kind of understanding the past and going into hypnosis, I think you really need to have a willingness. And I've had someone actually recently that's tried to put their brother forward for the therapy. And I've said, he doesn't really understand what RTT is and what he's signing up to. And he's got to have that understanding of what he's doing and what he wants to be like afterwards, because your mind needs to be excited to change. It needs to want what I'm telling it. Marisa Peer talks about it like, if she could just give you her ideas and what she wants, it should just tell everyone to transfer all their money to her in the hypnosis. Just go in your bank account, transfer it. Your mind's not going to accept that because you don't want it. I could try and tell you want to be an astronaut, but you don't want that. So you're not going to change to that. It's got to be something your mind wants that you're then programmed to. So yeah, I would say they've got to be a willing participant and want the change.
That makes perfect sense. It's very important that it's something as well, if you're considering to recommend to someone that they might wish to do RTT, that it's something that they genuinely want to change, and that it's not just something that you don't like about that person, which is important to be said. Regardless of how much we're striving to help others, they have to be in that position where they're willing to do the work. I've got one question, because I've thought about this a lot since the RTT that we did together. Where is the place for traditional talk therapy now that RTT exists? Because in my perspective, after years of doing traditional talk therapy, which did help me in many ways, but after having now gone through RTT and knowing that it's applicable to anything and everything, I don't know if I'd ever go back to traditional talk therapy.
I think it's a personal preference. I had talk therapy when I lost my mum, and it did at that time help me for sure. I've got a client at the moment who I've worked with on an addiction that talk therapy has helped them to an extent, but it's definitely stuff from the past that's causing that addiction. And they've said they're going to continue the talk therapy even though they got the benefits from RTT, because they like being able to speak to somebody once a month. This is a male, so sometimes guys don't have that same thing as girls do of like, how are you getting on? It's kind of more surface level conversations often between guys and their mates. And he just likes being able to unpack and understand his emotions on a monthly basis about general life stuff that's going on. And that's healthy to do. If there's something, and I've actually got somebody who is a psychotherapist, a friend of mine who I'm actually going to be doing RTT on, which I found a big compliment to do, again, because there's something that has been worked on. She's worked on for a lot of years consciously, but she says there's just something below the surface still sitting there. So I think both things have different results, and a lot of people, I don't want to take away from results that people have got from talk therapy, because it definitely, when I lost my mum, it completely changed my perspective from a couple of things they told me of how I was trying to control the situation. I was trying to play God, and I couldn't do that. So highlighting that to me, that my loved ones wouldn't have done because they were in the same emotional situation, really helped me. And I think, like I said, on a day-to-day basis, it's good to talk about your emotions and process them so they don't manifest into something much worse further down the line. And it's personal preference. Some people, if they're really too against going into hypnosis, too scared about it, don't want to go down that path, some people do just prefer consciously speaking and working with their conscious mind. They're too scared for whatever reason to access their subconscious or go into hypnotherapy, or don't believe in meditation, don't believe in those things. So I think it's really whatever works best for you. And I know that I've got friends of mine that are really trying hard to recommend their friends to me, and the person's resistant to it because they've tried, in their words, everything before and it hasn't worked, which is, to be honest, the place I was in to an extent. And I'm like, well, they can have a call with me and I'll speak to them about the benefits of it and answer any questions they have, but they really need to want to resolve something and want to do the work. So if talk therapy gives them something, then that's absolutely the right thing for them.
I value that answer a lot. I definitely agree that you can get so much benefit out of talk therapy, even though perhaps RTT offers something which is so in depth.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's completely turned my life around, and so quickly for certain types of people, certain individuals. There is definitely still merit from what you've explained there. So that's really helpful to know. Kathryn, this has been such an incredible episode. I'm so grateful to you. I just want to ask you for one final piece of guidance for our listeners today, which is, what is some advice that you would say to anyone who might be considering RTT?
So I would say your mind is the most powerful tool in the world. We just don't use 95% of it, which is our subconscious mind. And that's doing all the things like making our heart beat and making us breathe without us thinking about it. So if you learn to program it better and upgrade your operating system, then you can quickly get the results of rapid change. So it's about having faith. A lot of us place faith in the medical system, but place some faith in you and the power of your own mind to change how you think and feel on a daily basis, and also physical conditions. And you can't get worse from RTT. Like, that's the guarantee that we're told in our training. You can't make anyone worse. They can not get as much benefit. That's literally it. So if you're at a position where you've tried a lot of other things, or you just want to heal and you want to heal quickly, then have a call, and it's worthwhile to look into.
Oh, amazing. Kathryn, thank you so much.
Could
you please let the listeners know where they can find you, where they can contact you, learn a little bit more about RTT, because this has been so valuable from my heart, honestly. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It was a pleasure. I love clients like you working with you, especially when you get such amazing results. So my company's business, my business is called Paradise in Me. Because it was about, we look for paradise externally a lot, and it's about creating that within yourself. So paradiseinme.com, or on Instagram, paradisein.me. So just a dot in the middle.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I will leave the description in the description box. I'll leave all of the links so that everyone can go and find you nice and quickly. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you and all of the incredible knowledge in this episode, Kathryn.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.